Welcome, everyone, to another episode of The Asylum with Harley and Joker. Joker, gotta give me 1 second. I have to step away real fast for a sec. A child is screaming.
Joker shall entertain the audience.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right, folks. Another miraculous night with your Joker. Your King Joker, that is. And make sure to tune in next Saturday for the Billboard Top 30 1952 bracket. That's right, we're going back in time once again, and it's going to be all types of crap that no one ever listens to anymore for the most part. So come listen as we talk about it, because why not? I've actually rather enjoyed going back into these old days. Well, I was told I had an old soul. Just never knew it. What can I say? And don't forget, you can recommend things that we do in brackets or on shows. Just DM me or Harley or comment on our shows.
We are always looking for a new guest for our show.
I told them they could recommend ideas. I didn't say these motherfuckers are coming on. Come on now.
Yeah, well, either way, we always like having guests, especially if they have interesting stories. We like interesting stories.
Listen, don't make me get on my Beauty and Beast down here and start singing "Be Our Guest." I ain't had enough Steve Weiser for that one.
Okay, well, this is our court cam's most dramatic moments of all time. Oh,
Jerry.
Exactly. Some of them look like Jerry Springer moments. So let's take a look. And comment below what you think about this.
Though apparently comments aren't working that great because I saw Amanda was commenting on our bracket last night and I missed it and it wasn't popping up. Just saying.
She's probably commenting on Facebook instead of YouTube.
Yeah, Facebook sucks balls.
Please be seated.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Zuckerberg!
The attorneys for the state, the attorneys for the accused are present in the courtroom.
The man you see here is 41-year-old Daniel Villegas, accused of killing 2 teens in 1993 when he was just 16. At that time, without an attorney or his parents present, Villegas says he was coerced by an El Paso detective into confessing to the murders.
They can fight that,
Despite
though.
recanting
The
the
parents
confession hours
they
later,
really wanted to.
became a key piece of evidence for the prosecution.
Present in the courtroom. The court has received a message from the jury indicating that they've reached a verdict.
Villegas has been on trial 3 separate times for this crime and has maintained his innocence throughout.
Need smokes, BRB.
Let's bring the jury in.
His first trial in
And guys, if you wanna
1994 ended in a mistrial
go to
through a hung
YouTube
jury.
And
A 1995 retrial
you guys
ended
on
with a
X, you can
conviction for
comment.
capital murder.
comment along.
Villegas was sentenced to life in prison. After spending 18 years in prison, that verdict was thrown out in 2013 because of ineffective assistance of counsel. Villegas was released in January of 2014 and has remained out on bond as he awaited a 3rd trial. During that time, he fathered 2 children. Though the prosecution continued to insist on his guilt, there was no DNA, no firearm, and no forensic evidence presented linking Villegas to the shooting.
If the defendant will please stand.
If a man really hated ads, here's what he would do. Day 1,
Okay.
he would install Pi on his computer without spending a dime because it's 100% free.
The last 25 years of his life, much of it in prison, has all led up to this moment.
In the District Court of El Paso County, Texas, 409th Judicial District, the state of Texas versus Daniel Villegas, number 94-0D09328. Verdict Form B. We, the jury, find the defendant, Daniel Villegas, not guilty of...
I'd probably do that too.
For the first time since he was
I'd be going to the
16
opposing
years
party
old,
like,
25
fuck
years ago,
you! Yeah,
Daniel
bitches!
Villegas is a free man.
Like they said, there was no gun, no
conditions.
evidence of that he did any of this, and they interviewed him as a minor with no parent or no attorney there.
In this court, you are free to leave. Good luck to you.
That wasn't outrageous.
Stand up and raise your right hand to be sworn, please. Please stand up.
Next, we head over to the Miami-Dade Bond Court in Miami, Florida,
You know that's going to be bad.
The one
because look
sleeping
at all
there,
the
you can wake
prisoners
up
there.
too in the back row.
where Judge Mindy Glazer's overseeing bond hearings.
I have a few announcements. I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent all defendants unless you tell me you have money to pay for a private lawyer or if you are hiring a private lawyer and one is here. Also, please let me know if you have served in the United States military or any of the reserves. Good morning.
Good morning.
Over the next few hours, she'll see dozens of defendants.
You were arrested for second-degree murder.
As they step in
I'm in the military, Your Honor.
You are?
and quickly step out.
Hi, Mr. Booth. How are you?
How you doing, ma'am? Okay, ma'am.
49-year-old Arthur Booth is a career criminal, charged with burglary, grand theft, fleeing, and resisting arrest.
He looks like he should be asking Ice Cube why he's eating everything in his fridge.
Reckless driving, damage to property, leaving the scene of a crash with serious injury.
With no serious injury.
I'm sorry, no serious injury.
Okay.
After questioning,
He thinks
Judge
flirting
Glazer
with the
explains
judge
the
is
terms of his bond.
The bond on count one is $7,500.
But the judge notices something familiar about this defendant.
What you talking about, Willis?
Okay, Mr.
That's what his
Booth, I have
face
a
looks like.
question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you go to Nautilus for middle school?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry to see you here. I always wondered what happened to you, sir.
Oh my goodness.
This is the nicest
She
kid
hit
in
that.
middle
She hit that. You know she did.
Oh my goodness.
He was the best kid in middle school. I used to play football with him, all the kids, and look what has happened. I'm so sorry.
Oh my goodness.
The surprise reunion between the two former middle school classmates is almost too much for Booth to handle.
Oh my goodness.
Once a promising student, Booth fell into drug and gambling addictions that led him into a life of petty crime, resulting in multiple stays in prison.
Oh my goodness.
Good luck to you, sir. I hope you're able to come out of this okay and just lead a lawful life.
The reunion somberly concludes as Glazer sets bail at $43,000.
Okay. All right. Oh my goodness. You. Oh my goodness.
Booth is sent to prison for 10 months and then released into a drug treatment program.
I thought this was going to be more outrageous than this.
The narcotics here.
What?
I thought this was going to be more outrageous.
County, Florida, for the trial of Zachary Wester. Former sheriff's deputy was charged with 67 counts of racketeering, fabricating evidence, false imprisonment, and possession of controlled substances. Wester's accused of planting drugs in a dozen vehicles during random traffic stops.
I believe it.
It appears to be an illegal narcotic. Do you know anything about that?
I do not. All of the drivers denied owning the drugs, but yet most were subsequently arrested.
You have the right to remain silent.
The arrest caused suspicion internally, and in 2018, Wester was suspended. 3 years later, the case went to trial. He pleaded not guilty to all charges.
This is a case about an abuse of an incredible power, about the abuse of the incredible trust that we all put, and we have to put, in law enforcement in a society.
The prosecution relied
Fucking
on
dirty-ass cops.
body cam footage to help argue their case.
I backed the blue, but what the fuck?
Stephen Van, a convicted felon, had recently gotten out of jail when Wester supposedly found methamphetamine in his car.
Have you ever seen this before? Yeah, what is that? I'm just trying to figure out how that stuff got in your car. You're gonna go to jail today for possession of methamphetamine, okay? Oh man, dude, I'm serious, dude. Anything, what you want me to do, man?
Like the other drivers who testified, Van gave the officer permission to search his car because he claims he had nothing to hide.
Never give him permission to search your car unless I got a warrant.
I knew it was.
While the jury got to watch most of the traffic stops, some recordings had mysteriously disappeared.
Why in the world would that have been deleted? I wish I knew that answer.
Ironically, body cam footage would become the strongest element in the prosecution's case, especially when it came to Teresa Odom.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
At first, the officer's polite, even playful.
Anything in the vehicle I need to be concerned about? AIDS, rocket launchers. Okay.
While Odom stands behind the vehicle, Wester begins his search. Notice as he prepares to put his gloves on, there's a small item in his left hand. Prosecutors argue that Wester is palming a small bag of
What the hell?
I'm trying to think over here. I'd like to know where the they got that photo of me with my short hair. Like, do they have access to Google?
The fuck just happened?
This is Leonid Greiser, who's on trial in Russia for stabbing his own sister, Ariana Korol, to death. The 18-year-old confessed to the brutal murder following his arrest by police in Moscow, claiming that Satan ordered him to do it. The dangerous criminal is confined to a secure glass box in Sherbinski District Court for the duration of the trial to ensure the safety of the guards, court employees, and other civilians. Greiser approaches the narrow open panel of the box, and there's a
Oh, look, he's trying to squeeze through that.
He retreats behind the tinted window, but suddenly stops dead in his tracks as an idea comes to him. Watch again as the expression flickers across Greiser's face in a moment of dawning realization. With an air of intent and determination, he stoops down, putting his hands through the narrow horizontal window, gripping the outer panel as he tries to pull his upper body through the opening. Unfortunately for him, his head is too big to fit, so instead, he leans back and swings his right leg out of the window, hoping to exit feet first. Watch as the female guard puts her hands through the window to grab his leg, and he moves back towards the center of the box, out of reach of the officers.
Don't put your hands in the box with the crazy person.
He looks toward the ceiling of the box, searching for an alternative escape route.
I'm waiting for him to throw some semen out the window.
The male or the access. They speak for a minute, and Greiser seems to calm down. However, just as it seems that peace is restored, the situation takes an unbelievable turn. Greiser jumps onto the low bench in the box and begins to squeeze his way up through an extremely narrow gap between the ceiling slats. Officers stand by, seemingly not too worried as the defendant anchors a leg on either side of the box, shimmying further up through the top. But when he gets high enough that his head displaces the styrofoam ceiling tile, the guards realize that they're in trouble, and they spring into action.
Oh, let's let him get that high.
Watch as the three officers try to climb up to reach Greiser as his body disappears through the courtroom ceiling. Despite his legs being held by two guards and beaten with a baton by the third, Greiser continues to move upwards, wriggling so
just sticking up his ass.
Off into the hands of one of the officers. More guards arrive for backup. One approaches the escapee's leg, brandishing a taser. Somewhat nervous of being tased, Greiser knocks two of the ceiling tiles through from the attic side and pleads with the officer not to do it. The guard continues to wave the taser.
Tase him in the nuts.
Why wave it? Just tase him.
Down to the ceiling, bringing a tangle of wires and tiles with him. Eventually, Greiser lowers himself back into the box, pulls his pants back up, and the hearing continues with him in handcuffs to prevent any further escape attempts. The daring defendant was ultimately found guilty of the murder, and he told the court that he had no regrets about what he did, as he was sentenced to mandatory psychiatric medical treatment. While the impending threat of imprisonment caused Greiser's body to spring into action to escape, some defendants, like Diana Lovejoy, face the opposite challenge. Lovejoy is in court charged with conspiracy to commit murder and attempted murder for a botched murder-for-hire plot in which her soon-to-be ex-husband was shot in 2016. The mother of one, who was known for her YouTube videos on cooking before her arrest, stood accused of hiring her gun instructor, Weldon McDavid Jr., to shoot and kill her husband, Greg Mulvihill. Lovejoy and Mulvihill had been going through a contentious divorce at the time, and as part of the final agreement, Mulvihill was required to pay her ex-husband $120,000. Following a dramatic trial, Lovejoy has been called back into the courtroom in Vista, San Diego, to hear the jury's verdict. It's a tense moment. Diana bows her head toward the desk in nervous anticipation. As the forewoman announces that she has been found guilty, Lovejoy's shock is clearly evident, and her eyes widen as she looks at her defense attorney in horror. She continues to look stunned and aghast as the forewoman reads on. She leans back in her seat with her eyes closed as she tries to process what is happening. Given the cold-blooded nature of the crime she has just been found guilty of, you won't believe what happens next.
All right, we're going to need to take a break. And if we could have,
in case you missed it, watch again as she disappears out of the frame here before being quickly caught and lifted back into her seat by the prison guard. Although her eyes are open, Lovejoy seems to be in a catatonic state. Her head rolls about uncontrollably. The prison guard attempts to get her into a standing position, but a seemingly rigid Lovejoy collapses to the ground, eyes still fixed open. She's placed in the recovery position before receiving medical attention from a doctor present in the courtroom who thinks she might be suffering from shock. Though prosecutor Jody Breton suspects the whole incident could have been faked,
I am skeptical because she's somebody who will hire a person to kill her ex-husband.
Lovejoy is taken from the court to a waiting ambulance on a stretcher. After recovering from what ER doctors deem to be just a fainting episode, Lovejoy is brought back to court, where she is sentenced to 26 years to life for her crimes.
She's got a big ass nose, like really big.
Some incidents
it looks like a bird
are more
beak.
dramatic than others.
She's a witch!
Son Wilkins could be the most dramatic yet. Wilkins is representing himself in an Ohio courtroom against multiple charges of assault and weapons violations in connection with the 2004 shooting. Following a dramatic first day of the trial, the judge needed to clear the courtroom a number of times due to Wilkins' antics. Day 2 was already starting off on the wrong foot. The hearing kicks off with the judge asking Wilkins if he has any witnesses present in court today.
Wilkins, do you have any witnesses here present today?
To which Wilkins replies that he does not. He tells the judge that he needs more time to prepare his defense, to which the judge admonishes him, telling him that he had months to prepare.
You've had months to research this matter. This is why I suggested to you that you have counsel.
Not willing to give Wilkins any more time, the hearing proceeds. Prosecution calls a policeman to the stand as a witness. Once they have concluded their questioning, Wilkins begins his cross-examination, and you won't believe what happens next. Watch again as Wilkins falls to the ground, and court deputies rush to his aid. The judge, already familiar with Wilkins' flair for drama, seems unperturbed, and she calmly calls for the courtroom to be cleared yet again. The officers, who are trained medics, lift him back up into his chair, and a nurse checks him over, deeming there to be nothing wrong with him. See here how Wilkins sits, slumped in the chair, seemingly unconscious, as the judge asks for it to be put on the record.
You out of doing
his breathing
stuff
appears
you
to be
don't wanna
normal,
do.
and he seems
Seriously.
as if he is asleep.
Like
The
I'd fall
situation becomes
over
even more
like
bizarre
that
as a
just
deputy
at
waves
work to
smelling
go
salts
home.
into Wilkins' nose,
A remarkable change.
causing him to suddenly throw his head backwards and make a miraculous recovery from his feigned heart attack. The judge carries on with the hearing as Wilkins continues to sit in his chair with his head thrown back, and she reprimands him for his continued disruptive behavior. Despite being deemed healthy, Wilkins is eventually lifted from the seat and taken out of court in a wheelchair. Ultimately, his behavior didn't do him any favors, and he is sentenced to 42 years in prison. If you think Wilkins' antics were audacious, wait until you see Daniel Nicholson's attempt to escape the scales of justice. 35-year-old Nicholson is appearing at Christie's Beach Magistrates Court in Adelaide, South Australia, for a bail hearing in relation to weapons offenses and driving charges that he is facing. He has a long history of petty crime and drug use, and before attending court today, he got high on methamphetamines. As Magistrate Sue O'Connor announces that Nicholson's bail is being revoked,
I mean, if you're going to go to court, have fun with it.
the drugged-up defendant stands up and pleads with her, putting his hands in the air. Nicholson was expecting to leave the court on bail again today.
No,
And he's not happy to hear that this will not be the case. The judge orders him to sit down, but Nicholson becomes more irate and agitated. As shocking as Nicholson's earlier behavior has been, suddenly, things take a more dramatic turn. A sheriff's officer enters the dock to take control of the situation and calm Nicholson down. But instead, Nicholson jumps up onto the side of the dock, trying to climb over the glass panel at the top. Two officers grab him in an attempt to get him down, and he wrestles with one of them, locking arms as he falls back into the dock. He quickly springs back up and vaults to the dock, landing on the desk, as a police prosecutor wrangles him to the ground, pulling his pants down in the process. Watch again as Nicholson moves with seemingly superhuman strength to get out of the dock. It doesn't end there, and the struggle continues across the floor of the courtroom. Nicholson's supporters, who are sitting in the hall outside, storm the courtroom. One woman is holding Nicholson's young son in her arms, and she begs the guards for mercy. You can hear her here screaming and pleading that Nicholson is a sick man. Officers eventually restrain Nicholson, placing him in handcuffs. Two of the sheriff's officers involved were injured. Nicholson was jailed for at least 12 months for the escape attempt, with the judge telling him to grow up, get clean, or face many more years behind bars. While actions like Nicholson's can be explained away by a desire to evade imprisonment, some behavior by defendants in court is so bizarre that no logical reasoning can be found for it, like in the case of Christopher Teal. Teal is appearing before Superior Judge Karen Donahue in King County Courtroom, Seattle. The 26-year-old is charged with rape and unlawful imprisonment after an incident where it was alleged he followed a woman into the bathroom at a car dealership, locked her in a stall, and sexually assaulted her. The victim had dropped her car off for servicing moments before the attack, which was only stopped when dealership employees broke into the stall and pulled Teal, who was 6'3" tall, off the woman. Teal's behavior in custody has
looks
been
like a
erratic
rapist.
up until now, and he's been involved in a number of violent incidents, including
looks like
trying to
this guy I
headbutt
went
a
to high
detective
school with.
who was questioning him about the incident at the car dealership.
Kind of reminds me of Joe Dirt.
That was conducted found that he was capable
I don't get
But
that.
a taller Joe Dirt.
Against him.
I don't get that.
Psychologists
The
concluded
face,
that he
the
may
facial
be
hair is all
feigning
wrong, and the hair is
symptoms
all
of a
wrong.
psychiatric disorder. So today, he's in court for a competency hearing. Watch his demeanor as he enters the courtroom and looks around in a seemingly dazed state. His court-appointed attorney, Reed Birkland, stands next to him. Teal's handcuffs are removed by the jail guard, and the defendant continues to look around in a confused manner. As the prosecutor kicks off the hearing, Teal reaches his arm out towards his defense attorney, and the court officer grabs his arm down and tells him to stand still. You won't believe what happens next. Teal laughs, and then without warning or provocation, he turns to Birkland again and slaps him sharply. In case you missed it, here it is again. Watch as one court officer immediately grabs Teal by the back of the head, while the other holds him by the shoulders as they bring him to the ground. This officer eventually manages to get the cuffs back on the 250-pound
Why
man.
would you take it
Another
off of
officer
him in the
calls to the
first
back of
place?
the courtroom for an attendant to
Who the
bring a
fuck
restraint
knows?
chair to strap Teal into.
Chair, move the chair.
There aren't any restraint chairs to hand, but the officers place a spit hood over his head, and he's led from the courtroom. Birkland declines to press charges, but he removes himself from the case. The craziness doesn't end there. 2 weeks later, Teal's back in the courtroom again for another competency hearing. This time, officers are taking no chances, and he's wheeled in front of the judge, strapped into a restraint chair. Before the hearing concludes, Teal interrupts, and unbelievably, he proceeds to complain loudly about the fact that his hair is short in his mugshot.
I'd like to know where the they got that photo of me with my short hair. Because that was on Facebook, and I don't have a Facebook.
The attorney tries to get back on track, but Teal again shouts over him, asking nonsensical questions.
Legitimate question. Like, do they have access to Google?
Teal is eventually deemed competent to stand trial, and after being found guilty, he's sentenced to 8.5 years to life for his crimes. It's clear from the case of Christopher Teal that attorneys often find themselves at the receiving end of bad behavior from their clients. But as you will see in the case of Alexis Plunkett, some attorneys fight back in the most serious way. Plunkett's story is already a crazy one. She's a qualified criminal defense and civil rights attorney who runs her own practice in Las Vegas, Nevada. She's used to being on the other side of courtroom operations, defending clients and fighting in their corner. And in a way, that is what has landed her in court in the first place. Plunkett stands accused of 2 counts of conspiracy to unlawfully possess a cell phone by a prisoner and 12 counts of possession of a cell phone by a prisoner. This is after she was found to have handed her cell phone to a client of hers to use while visiting him in the county jail 2 years earlier. Not only that, but the client in question, Andrew Aravallo, is also Alexis Plunkett's boyfriend. Not exactly the type of judgment calls you would like to see from an attorney. The cell phone charges are a felony offense. Plunkett is facing up to a year in prison for them. Plunkett's actions and lack of common sense in relation to the matter have been appalling, and it's about to get a whole lot worse for her in court when the investigating officer takes the stand. He testifies that when police seized Plunkett's phone, they found text messages that she had sent to a group of 6 other attorneys, claiming that she had ordered a hit on Andrew Aravallo. Plunkett finishes the message with the words, "Delete this," followed by a smiling emoji. When one of the other attorneys called her out on it and told her not to joke about things like that, Plunkett responded by saying she wasn't joking. She justifies her actions, saying that Aravallo told her he would have her killed, so she wanted to have him killed first. Judge Michael Villani questions the officer about the texts before offering his own opinion to Plunkett, which, as you would expect, is not very lighthearted.
Okay, this is bizarre. There's nothing to say. Who in the right mind would send these texts? Like I said, I've been doing
To
this
other
since 1982.
attorneys.
I've never even heard of this, let alone seen this.
Despite the prosecution asking for Plunkett to be remanded
I
in
almost
custody,
rebelled.
she's released on bond.
The trial is firm. It's going forward. If you have any motions, file them
She
now.
sent that to
This will
6
not be
other
moved.
But
attorneys.
following in her previous pattern of poor judgment, it isn't long before
She
finds
looks
herself
evil.
back
It's like
in
her
court
face.
again, this time accused of intimidating one of the witnesses in her case. The charge comes after Plunkett made a post on social media calling a potential witness a snitch. The prosecution again asks that her bond be denied, reminding the judge of the nature of the text messages.
She has said in these texts what she wanted to do. She wanted to have Mr. Aravallo killed or beaten down.
Okay, guys, we are going to call it a show tonight because children are starting their stuff, and unfortunately, I have to go. So, catch us next week for our 1952 Billboard bracket, and we will
Yes, sir.
next week. And it's Saturday, not Sunday next week, guys. So we'll see you
Yes,
next
yes,
week.
yes.
Bye.